Welcome to the Skintrovert. I'm your host, Sam Bazile, and today I'm very excited because I have a special guest. So you guys might have tuned into my acne episode where we talked about how maybe if you want to be successful at treating acne, it's not just treating with topical intervention. Sometimes if we want to really help the patient heal from the inside out, it's good to find the root cause. So I have a very special guest today. And before I introduce her, let me tell you a little bit about her because it's pretty impressive. So, Rochelle Cannon is a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, a woman's hormone health coach, licensed medical esthetician, and founder of Chrysalis Method Wellness. Her certifications include functional diagnostic nutrition, the Institute of Menstrual Health, and the Institute of Integrative Nutrition. She is a licensed medical esthetician and was a licensed massage therapist for over 20 years. So she's been in the game for quite a while. She specializes in helping women uncover the root causes behind symptoms like fatigue, bloating, hormone imbalance, digestive issues, and skin concerns by looking at how the body's systems work together. Now, after experiencing her own health struggles and just not finding answers through traditional approaches, Rochelle began exploring a root cause approach to healing. So today, she helps women restore balance and energy through functional lab testing and a whole body approach that connects the gut, hormones, metabolism, and skin. So today, I'm happy to have Rochelle. Welcome to the Skintrovert, Rochelle.
Thank you, Sam. I'm so excited to be here. I've followed you for a long time, and I love what you're doing with this podcast, with the education. It's so needed, and I'm just happy to be part of it. Thank you.
And y'all, I actually have been knowing Rochelle for quite a while. So Rochelle has been an esthetician local to where I am, and it's been very cool watching her grow. So Rochelle is a provider that doesn't just take what she's got. She's always craving for more and wants to know more. She's probably one of the ones that's always at my trainings because she just loves to just soak it in. And I think her desire to grow and her desire to learn more has really paved the way for where she is now in her career. And I just couldn't be happier. It's been a pleasure watching you grow.
Thanks.
So, congrats.
Thank
Now,
you.
I wanted to do something very casual today. I just wanted to ask just some general questions about what it is that you do, because a lot of providers out there take a very traditional approach. Nothing wrong with that, but maybe the traditional approach isn't giving them and their patients what they need for success. So that's my hope today is that through these very, unique questions, we're able to inspire people to take it more than just surface level. So how does that sound for you? That sound good?
That sounds great.
All right, let's do it. All right. So, for listeners that are here that may not be familiar with what exactly it is that you do, how does your approach differ from just traditional conventional dermatology?
Yeah, so in traditional dermatology, acne is usually treated with topicals, with Accutane, with birth control, with antibiotics. And what I do is really try to get to the root of why you are having acne in the first place. What is going wrong within the systems of your body?
I love that approach. And listen, before I ask any more questions and go on, I do want to say this that this approach is not downgrading or disrespectful to traditional approaches, traditional dermatology. And look, just to kind of speak on that, I worked in that setting and it's very, very fast paced because I don't know how it is in other areas that are listening, but here in Louisiana, we just don't have enough dermatologists. And what happens is a patient that may just have like a mole check visit, they're scheduling like 6 months out because it's just how packed that schedule is. So when a problem presents to a dermatologist, they need to treat that symptom right then and there. They just don't have the time to go back, root uncover, and all these things. So it's like, let's give them the medication to treat the symptom, and hopefully that clears it up. So that's why I really love this approach because it helps to kind of fill in the gaps that maybe dermatologists just aren't able to uncover. So I love this approach. So tell me this. A lot of people that view acne, they just see acne as like clogged pores or maybe unclean or dirty skin. From your perspective, what is it that acne is actually telling us about the body?
So, acne is really telling us that something in the body is out of balance, something deeper is going on. And so, for many people, it is a signal that something is going on with your hormones, with your gut health, with inflammation, with blood sugar balance. So, the skin becomes a place where those internal imbalances show up. So, I like to think of it as a clue.
I love that. Find you a little clue and go with it. All right. So, with the things that you just shared, what are some of the most common internal imbalances that you see in patients that are struggling with acne?
Mhm. A lot of it is even just foundational things like blood sugar balances or blood sugar imbalance, maybe not eating the right types of food, maybe having too much sugar, processed foods, not getting enough sleep. But it can also be deeper things like your gut microbiome can be out of whack. Your liver may not be detoxifying properly, things like that.
Isn't that crazy that like it can be so many different things? And that's why it's such a customized approach. Like it's
Hmm.
never a one size fits all with treatment in any capacity. It really is. I feel that to my core. I feel that to be a good provider, like you really need to be able to uncover and customize specific for that patient. So that's cool. I like that information. All right. So I'm going to kind of skip around a little bit. Let's talk about the root causes of acne and what role do hormones play in acne development, particularly in adult women?
Well, hormones are going to be a big driver. So, androgens, which are hormones like testosterone and DHEA, they're going to stimulate oil production. And so, when oil production increases, the pores are going to be more likely to get clogged. So, and androgens or hormone imbalances can be linked to things like PCOS, insulin resistance, stress hormones, or coming off birth control. So these shifts in hormones can really increase androgen activity, which can increase oil, which can increase breakouts.
Yep. It's like a little bad cause and
It's
effect.
a cycle.
Yep.
Mhm.
And I like that you brought that up because when I was still an esthetician, I had this sweet patient that came in and I felt like we were doing everything. We were throwing the kitchen sink at her acne, just trying to get it under control. And even though we did a very, what I thought was a thorough consult, I really could not find the clue that I needed to figure this out. And then finally, one day, we're just having a regular conversation. And she tells me that, oh, when I leave here, I've got to go to my nurse practitioner to get my pellet. And I was like, "Excuse me, what? Your pellet? A testosterone pellet?" And she's like, "Yeah." And she's like,
Mhm.
"But I didn't think you needed to know that." I was like, "Girl, yes, I need to know that." I said,
Mhm.
exactly like you said. I said, "That testosterone pellet is causing the oil to spike, the production to become excessive, which is leading to all this acne."
Yeah.
And look, this is the sad part about that. I am now reaching perimenopause. Okay. So I understand how miserable that can be. Quality of life is very important. And when you have brain fog, when you're tired all the time, when you don't even want your husband to look at you, much less touch you, I get it. You want all that to stop. You want all of it to go away. So I completely understand wanting to improve quality of life and get back to a healthier, happier you. And sometimes in patients, it's just we have to have a come to Jesus talk. Like, listen, I may not ever be able to cure your acne, but we're going to do everything we can to get it under control because you're on the hormone pellet, girl.
Mhm.
Oh man. Okay. So yes, I love that. And I'm glad we brought that up because that's a lot of women are dealing with that right now. People are in their wellness era and they're doing all of the women's hormone treatments. And so it's definitely something to consider if you are having trouble with a patient. That could be a little helpful clue.
Absolutely.
All right. So next question. How does gut health influence the skin and acne formation?
Gut health plays a huge role in skin. So we actually have something called the gut skin axis, and that's how closely they're connected. The gut truly affects the skin. And so if our gut microbiome becomes imbalanced or that gut lining becomes inflamed, that inflammation can show up on our skin and cause all sorts of problems. And it's not just acne. It could be rosacea. It could be eczema. It could be any skin condition.
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up because I didn't even think about that. And that's true. I mean, listen, all of those skin concerns root in inflammation.
Mhm,
Rosacea roots in inflammation, acne roots in inflammation, even melasma. It
mhm.
all roots in inflammation. So if you have something internal that's triggering that inflammation, then yes, you're going to see it externally through your skin.
Yes,
All
and it
right.
could be so many different things that are causing that inflammation. It could be something as simple as blood sugar imbalance, but it could also be something like H. pylori, which 60% of the world has. And I don't know, have you ever heard of H. pylori? Yeah.
I was tested for it. I was having
Okay.
some gut issues. And
Yeah.
isn't it just like a bacteria in the gut?
It's a bacteria in the gut, but what it does is it burrows into your stomach lining and then it neutralizes your stomach acid. And
Oh,
so
wow.
then you can't digest your food, and then you're not absorbing nutrients from the food you're eating, and then it just goes on and on from there, and then it causes detoxification problems, which if your liver can't detox what it needs to detox, then it's getting backed up and it's pushing those toxins into all of your tissues and joints. And then that inflammation is now coming out on your skin. So, and that's just two of the things, blood sugar imbalance and H. pylori. There's a ton of different things that can cause inflammation in the gut.
Oof, man. It's actually scary, but also a little bit, maybe like a little boost to kind of get those inflammatory triggers down and make sure that your body's healthy
Absolutely.
because outside of just the skin, inflammation is bad for our health in general. So,
Absolutely.
okay, so this one actually is a question that I'm going to ask. I already know the answer to it because I have dealt with this, but can food sensitivities or diet trigger acne? And if so, what foods tend to be the biggest offenders?
Yes, food sensitivities can trigger acne for some people, for sure, because they're causing inflammation within the body. Inflammation is just kind of the key to everything. Um, Common triggers are going to be carbohydrates, sugar, um, uh, dairy can be a problem for some people, not everyone.
Oh,
And
it's
then,
me. That's what's all over
Mhm,
my chin right now, girl.
mhm. And gluten can be an issue. Gluten really is an issue for everyone, I think, because it just causes inflammation in the body, regardless. Um, so yeah, food can definitely be a problem, but like I said, everybody is different and an individual. Different foods can trigger different responses in people. It's not the same for everyone.
So I shared this on the acne podcast, but it's so funny that you say that because it is different in everybody. And what may be a food sensitivity for one is not going to be the same for another. So when I want to say I was in my 30s and I had a bad, bad breakout. It was almost like I was back to my teen years. And
Mhm.
I couldn't figure out what was going on because really, for the first time in a long time, I was actually eating very healthy because I was on a diet. I was trying to do the right thing. I was being very cautious with what I was putting in my body. And then when the breakout started and it got out of control, I was even more careful what I was eating. And I always say this, don't hate me, but I wasn't always into this woo woo stuff. Okay. This woo woo stuff just happened recently. And back then I had a woo woo doctor friend and she was like, you need to go do a gut test. She was like, you need to do a Dutch test and all these things. And then when she told me how much it was, I was like, girl, get out of here. I am not spending that much money. And she's like, well, then at least just get a food sensitivity test. At least just see if what, and I said, I don't need that. I'm telling you, I'm eating healthy. I've stayed away from sugar. I've stayed away from dairy. I'm watching gluten intake. I am doing the right thing. She said, I know, Sam, but even some of the healthier foods can be a sensitivity trigger for you. So you need to do it. I went and did it. And lo and behold, I had sensitivities, high sensitivities to chicken and eggs. And that was literally all I was eating. So
Mhm.
that's what happened. And look, other people have no issues with chicken and eggs. So
Yeah.
it is a very specific to you and your gut and what your gut is sensitive to.
It is. I was having the same issues, well, stomach issues for me, but my food sensitivity showed that I was, all the things I was eating, like spinach and strawberries, or the things that were causing inflammation in my body, and they're healthy foods. But a lot of times when you heal the gut, you can eat those foods again. Not all the time, but some of them you'll never be able to eat again, unfortunately, but most of them you can.
Well, that's good to know because then maybe once your gut is healed, you can slowly reintroduce them and
Mhm.
see if those symptoms kind of come back. That way we can still enjoy life. It's
Absolutely.
all about
Yes.
balance.
Yes. Hmm.
Okay, now this next question is a big one because I think this topic in particular goes not talked about because people hate to acknowledge that this could even be a problem, but stress. So tell me, how does stress contribute to acne?
Ooh, stress is a big one. Stress affects every area of our life, every part of our body, I guess, and especially, yes, it can cause acne. So when we're under chronic stress, the body produces cortisol, and so elevated cortisol can then disrupt other hormones and increase our oil production again as well. So it also stress weakens the gut lining. It causes inflammation. It just causes metabolic chaos within the body.
It's funny because one time when I was talking with a patient and I suggested that it could be stress, she was like, "Yeah, but I'm not stressed." Like, because nobody wants to blame it on that. Like, we want to have something
Hmm.
to blame but ourselves, right? So it's not the food, it's not the stress. And when we were talking about it, I said, "Well, tell me what's been going on in your life. Tell me like what's been happening." And she's like, "Well, my son's getting married, and we did move last year, and now that I'm moved, I'm having all these issues with this new house." I said, "You say you didn't have stress. Like, what do you mean? That's like a
Hmm.
ball of stress." So, not saying that it's always stress, but it's important to just kind of sit back and analyze that could be a problem. And then maybe just find better ways to manage your stress. Figure out, like, what helps. I know that there's supplements and things that can help, but managing your stress is ultimately what's going to help in
Hmm.
everything, not just your skin, but your overall body.
Yeah, and the best way to manage stress a lot of times is just to make sure you're eating whole foods, to make sure you're getting sleep, to make sure you're taking a walk, just making time for yourself, which we as women have a really hard time doing. So,
You got
I
that right.
mean, so we need to prioritize ourselves a little bit better sometimes.
Yes, we do. We deserve it. Okay, so you mentioned having a healthy life and getting out and taking a walk. So this leads us into our next one.
Mhm.
So are there certain nutrient deficiencies that can worsen acne?
Yes, I mean, um, omega 3s, if we're deficient in omegas, zinc can be a problem. Um, Vitamin D, things like that. But then again, everybody is different. Not
Hmm.
everybody is the same. So, um, but eating a balanced diet, eating whole foods, cutting out processed foods, trying to stay away from sugar. I'm all about the 80-20 rule. I don't think we have to be perfect. I think that we should prioritize those things, but I also think we need to have fun and, eat the cookie every once in a while. So,
Yes, we do.
so
Yes, we
yeah.
do.
Mhm.
All right. So you said that it's very customized, it's very patient specific. So we need to investigate every single patient and figure out what it is that's causing it for them. So when a patient comes to you, if they are concerned with acne and they're trying to identify the root cause, what types of testing do you typically recommend and why?
Mhm. So I usually start with three tests. I'm going to start with a hair tissue mineral analysis because I want to see what your mineral levels are. Are you being affected by heavy metals? And those ratios that the minerals have to each other, are they in balance? That's going to be really important for skin health, um, it shows us a lot about blood sugar balance, thyroid health, your immune system. Um, so that gives us a good picture there. And then I want to look at your hormones. I want to see, what are your cortisol levels? Are you following a natural circadian rhythm throughout the day? Is your cortisol too high? Is it too low? Are you burned out? I also want to look at your sex hormones. And what they're doing, and also how they're being metabolized, how your liver is processing those hormones and moving them out of your body. Is it doing it efficiently, or does your liver need support? I do that with a Dutch test. And then I also do a GI map test because I want to see what your gut microbiome looks like. Do you have the good bacteria that you need? Do you have an overgrowth of bad bacteria? Do you have pathogens or H. pylori or even parasites? Who knows? And then it also gives me a really good picture of the immune system that is in your gut. So you have an immunoglobulin called secretory IgA, which tells us about how your immune system in your gut is able to fight off bad bacteria or infection. Is it struggling? Is it weak? I kind of like to think of it as the bouncer at the bar door. So he's trying to. The bouncer at the bar door wants to let only in who should be in and keep out who should be out. And if when he's doing well, when he's feeling good, only the right people get in. The riffraff stays out. But when he's struggling, he's overwhelmed, well, a lot of that bad bacteria can get in. And then if that bad bacteria stays in for too long, well, the good bacteria get a little tired and really weak, maybe wiped out. And so then he's wiped out and he's taking a nap because he just can't, he can't fight off anything anymore. So I want to see what your immune system is doing as well. So those are, and then the GI map gives us more information than that, but that's kind of the gist of it. But a lot of really good information, and that creates a picture for me of what's going on within your body. There are further tests we can run if we need to, but I think that's a really good place to start. So,
Okay. I love that. And I love the analogy. Definitely puts it into perspective. So now that we've talked about what specifically you would run to get an idea of how you're going to treat, do you, and I'm going to say this because you are a licensed esthetician, but do you also include topical treatments in your treatment plan for acne patients specifically?
absolutely. I believe that they go hand in hand. We want to bring in things that can help bring relief while we're trying to fix the problem. So we want to be able to calm the skin, support the skin barrier, reduce inflammation. So, yeah, those things are important.
Okay. And when you bring on topicals, you don't have to say like specifically what skincare products and brands you use, but like ingredient wise, like what are your go
Mhm.
tos when trying to treat acne topically for your patient?
I mean, it all depends on, kind of what's going on, but definitely want to bring in ingredients that are going to calm the skin, like niacinamide or azelaic acid, or I like sulfur based products as well to kind of help clear out the pores. So things like that.
I
Hmm.
love that. I
Hmm.
say this all the time, but I think sulfur is such an underrated product ingredient. It really is. When I did a deep dive into sulfur, I could not believe how helpful it was. It's anti-microbial. It's anti-inflammatory. It helps with oil regulation. Like it does all of these things, and I just don't think we use it enough. That's why I started like incorporating it more into my routine because I have a sulfur mask from the company
Hmm.
that I represent
Hmm.
and it's great, but it's something that I was only using like 2 or 3 times a week. So I was like, after reading about it, I was like, no, I need sulfur in my routine more. So then I started mixing the mask with my cleanser just so I could get it in more often. So, okay, so you and I are kind of in line with the product, with the ingredients that we use.
Good.
Okay, now tell me this. Lifestyle plays a big part. Not only diet, but lifestyle also plays a big part in, I guess, our patients' success with treating acne. So, what are some good daily habits that people can adopt to have clear skin from the inside out?
Hmm. So, blood sugar balance is one of those foundational things I'm going to work on with you. I want to make sure you're getting enough protein, that you're getting enough fiber and enough healthy fat so you're not having blood sugar spikes throughout the day. So, your blood sugar is just stable. A lot of people aren't getting enough protein or even just healthy fats. Our hormones are made from cholesterol, which and cholesterol is made from healthy fats like avocados and or avocado oil, things like that. So almond butters. Trying to think of other healthy fats there, but so balancing blood sugar is going to be key. And then I want to make sure you're staying hydrated. Are you drinking enough water? Are you getting electrolytes in in that water? That's going to be important. How much sleep are you getting? Are you getting that 8 hours of sleep at night? Are you going to bed at 10 or because if you're staying up too late, well, that's putting your body into a stressed out mode already. You need a really good night's sleep. And and then also, we just want to manage stress. We want to figure out, like I said, taking daily walks, doing breath work, um, different things like that.
Okay, good info. I know this obviously is different for each person and what they're specifically dealing with, but based on your treatment, what are some common supplements that you typically recommend for acne?
Ooh, omega 3s are always going to be good because they're going to reduce inflammation. Um, and then beyond that, it's really individual because zinc can be great for acne, but for some people, it might not be good if they have a copper imbalance. So,
Oh gosh, I
um,
didn't even think about that.
and not everybody, vitamin D can be great, but not everybody is absorbing vitamin D because they might not have those cofactors. So sometimes you can be taking vitamin D, but you're not even absorbing it because you don't have what you need to get it into the cell. Um, so I really like to kind of work with someone, get their foundations in place, and then through testing, see what they might be missing, and then go from there.
Okay. And there's two questions that I didn't tell you about, but I do want to ask you just off the cuff. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I just thought of these and I think they're important. So, one, you mentioned blood sugar a lot and how important that can be. So, for someone who maybe if they, you know, if that's intriguing to them and they want to explore that, do you typically recommend that they do the blood sugar monitor, like the little thing that they put on the back of their arm?
Yep. Yes, that's one of the things I have my clients do, and our found in that when we're working on the foundations is wear a continuous glucose monitor. And you can wear that for either 2 weeks or a month, and that will give you so much information on how your body responds to foods because everybody's body responds differently to foods, and even the order that you eat them in, protein, fiber, and fat. So typically, you want to eat that fiber first, but for some people, you need to eat protein first to not have that blood sugar spike. So it's a great way to see how your body works and responds to different foods.
Okay, I love that. And then the other question I thought about was actual medication. So things like antibiotics or steroids. Is that typically what you go to, or is it something you try to avoid if you can?
Oh, in my treatment plan? Is that what you
Yes.
mean? So, no, I do not prescribe any medications. I'm not a doctor. Typically, you are going to self treat. I, um, I will make recommendations on supplements that I know will treat or not treat, but help clear up whatever is going on within your body. If you have an overgrowth or a bad bacteria or a parasite, there are ways to treat without antibiotics or steroids. You can always choose to do the antibiotics or the steroids, and I can still help you support your gut microbiome through that process. So, because as we know, antibiotics they're great and they do a lot of really good things, but they're going to kill off not just the bad, but all the good bacteria. So we really want to replenish that good bacteria while we're killing off something that's bad. Mm.
I am so glad that you said that because I kind of agree with you on that. I know that there's always going to be a place for it, right? If you're ill and it's what you need, it's what you need. There's just no way
Mhm.
of getting around it. But
Absolutely.
I just feel like sometimes for things like acne or something to where it's like my life is not on the line, I try to stay away from it personally myself because of those reasons. I don't want to kill off all of the good bacteria in my gut because I feel like it makes it worse later.
Mhm.
And I'll tell you something that happened to me. My doctors are still kind of like a little like, I don't know what's going on with you, Sam, but I have really bad asthma and I had it really, really bad in my teens into my 20s. And I was having asthma attacks constantly. And I pretty much lived on steroids. Like when I would have a really bad asthma attack, I would end up in the hospital on a prednisone IV bag. And then when I would, have to be home afterwards, I'd be like on these courses of steroids to try and get my lungs back to where they needed to be. And now I can't even take steroids. The last time that I had to be put on steroids, it caused me to go into adrenal failure. And it
Wow.
was prednisone. And I had been on prednisone so many times. So it was just weird that that happened in my body. So I tried to do my own research to try and figure out like, why is this doing this? And while I can't figure it out, neither can my doctors, it just made me doing the research on steroids. Wow. That is
Mhm.
kind of scary.
Yeah.
and what steroids can do to the body, like long term, and even to the face, like topical steroid creams, like what they're doing to the barrier. And I was just like, wow, I feel like sometimes we're just so quick to like make that prescription recommendation and not really figure out, like you said, like let's try and hit the root cause first. And then if you feel like you're not, happy or it's not going fast enough, then go to the medications, because I feel like that's what it is sometimes. I feel like sometimes the medications can just be a band-aid. And wouldn't you want to heal the wound and not just put a band-aid on it? I feel like, me personally, that's what I would want to do. And like I said, no shade to the doctors that are prescribing the medications. I understand why you are. You're trying to give them relief, because sometimes those symptoms can be unbearable depending on what it is. So I definitely know that there's always a time and a place, but what a great thing to have a provider like you that's willing to take the time to actually go deep, figure it out, and truly help them heal, as opposed to just let's get a quick band-aid. So I love everything that we talked about today. And I want to ask you this. This will be the last question. So if listeners remember only one thing from this conversation and about acne and overall health, what should it be?
Well, acne is it is something that is being caused from something internal. There's something is causing the acne. Let's figure out what it is. Let's get to the root cause, um, so you don't have to struggle with it anymore.
I like that. Always go for the root cause. Okay, well, that was a lot of information. I think especially for someone who has never really heard of this approach, probably could be intriguing. It could maybe want them to dig and know more. Or maybe there's a patient that's listening to this and maybe might not have had success with just topical intervention or those medications. And maybe they want to go a little bit further and they want to get to that root cause. Would you mind sharing how they can find you and maybe get in touch if they want to learn more or explore more?
Absolutely. My website is chrysalismethod.com, or you can find me on Instagram at chrysalismethod.wellness.
I love that. Well, Rochelle, thank you so much for taking time. I know you stay busy, so I'm grateful that you are just spending a little bit of time with us over here at the Skintrovert. Thank you all for tuning in and listening. I always value the time that you spend with me. Thank you so much. And if you guys have any specific questions for me, you can always find me at the Skintrovert on all social media platforms. I'm also on all podcast platforms. And if you want to talk to me directly, you can email me at skintrovertsam@gmail.com. All right, guys, I'm going to let you go now. Thanks, everyone. And thanks again, Rochelle. Bye, guys. Think of the Skintrovert as your aesthetics roundtable, not a training manual. This podcast is for professional education and discussion. It's not medical advice. Your scope of practice matters, regulations vary, and your license always leads. To continue the conversation, follow the Skintrovert on Apple, Spotify, or any platform that you listen to your podcast.